Welcome to Capitol Catch Up, your deep dive into the latest action from the halls of Congress. I am Victor.
And I am Leanie. Today we are unpacking a wide array of legislative proposals, critical committee meetings, nominations, and the debates shaping our national landscape. Let us start with some major bills moving through the House and Senate that directly impact small businesses and American workers.
That is right. First up is House Resolution 8879, also known as the Oversight and Transparency for Small Business Certifications Act of 2026. This bill focuses on the Small Business Administration, requiring them to submit detailed annual reports to Congress.
This is really about accountability, Victor. The Small Business Administration will have to provide highly granular data on how they certify and recertify small businesses, specifically focusing on those owned by service-disabled veterans, women, and businesses located in historically underutilized business zones or hub zones.
Exactly. By tracking metrics like processed applications, approval and denial rates, and how long it takes to make a determination, the goal is to make sure these federal contracting programs actually work efficiently for everyday business owners.
Speaking of workplace efficiency, we also have a significant debate surrounding labor contracts. House Resolution 5408, the Faster Labor Contracts Act, targets the long delays workers face when trying to secure their very first collective bargaining agreement. Right now, those negotiations average over 465 days.
That is more than a year of waiting, which can really weaken the effectiveness of union representation. House Resolution 5408 amends the National Labor Relations Act to require parties to begin bargaining within 10 days of a request. It also sets up a structured timeline. If they do not reach an agreement in 90 days, federal mediation steps in. If that fails after 30 days, a binding three-person arbitration panel will resolve the dispute.
To get this bill to the floor, the House passed House Resolution 1140. This is a procedural resolution that establishes the rules for debate. It waives standard points of order, limits the debate to just 1 hour divided between the majority and minority members of the Committee on Education and Workforce, and restricts amendments to a single motion to recommit. This kind of procedural fast-tracking shows how eager supporters are to get a final vote.
Yes, procedural rules are the gears that keep the House moving. We saw another major procedural move with House Resolution 1345. This resolution sets the stage for debating several measures focused on federal financial integrity.
It covers some heavy-hitting legislation, Victor. For instance, it provides for the consideration of House Resolution 8312, which would establish new fraud prevention functions within the Department of the Treasury and create a permanent, government-wide Inspector General for fraud, accountability, and recovery.
It also sets up debate for House Resolution 8464, which authorizes pausing and segmenting federal payments to mitigate risk, and House Resolution 1335, which formally condemns those who seek to defraud the United States government. Plus, it covers Senate Bill 2, a budget reconciliation bill linked to Senate Concurrent Resolution 33. All of these are aimed at verifying eligibility before federal funds are sent out.
This ties directly into another transparency measure in the Senate, Senate Bill 872, the Stop Secret Spending Act of 2025. This bill targets other transaction agreements. These are flexible contracting mechanisms that federal agencies use, but they often bypass traditional reporting. Senate Bill 872 mandates that these agreements be publicly reported on usspending.gov.
The Treasury would have 3 years to set up automated data transmission for these agreements. The bill also requires annual reports on any unreported funding, with justifications, and tasks the Government Accountability Office with updating regulations to close these loopholes.
Now let us pivot to public safety and justice. There is a strong focus on the mental health of our first responders in Senate Bill 825, the Fighting Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Act of 2025.
This is a crucial piece of legislation, Leanie. It directs the Attorney General to develop a program to give police, firefighters, and 911 dispatchers better access to evidence-based treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder and acute stress disorder. Many local departments simply do not have the resources for specialized care. Under this act, the Attorney General has 150 days to report to Congress on proposed telehealth and in-person programs, funding needs, and legislative steps, all while keeping the identities of those seeking help strictly confidential.
Another law enforcement bill is Senate Bill 4394, the Promoting Police Leadership Act. It directs the Attorney General to develop specialized, evidence-based training under the COPS program. This includes strategic leadership, officer wellness, and community trust building. It also sets up a certification process and will publish a list of agencies that complete the training, though it explicitly preserves the rights of state and local governments to maintain their own standards.
And for our tribal communities, Senate Bill 3041, the Tribal Warrant Fairness Act, authorizes the United States Marshal Service to assist federally recognized Indian tribes with criminal matters and fugitive apprehension. This integrates tribal law enforcement needs directly into federal operations, giving them access to federal support comparable to state and local jurisdictions.
In terms of correctional facilities, Senate Bill 736, the Lieutenant Osvaldo Alvarado Stopping Prison Contraband Act, is designed to boost security by increasing the penalties for smuggling cell phones to inmates, setting a maximum 2-year prison sentence. It also requires the Bureau of Prisons to update its contraband policies.
We also see a significant advancement in forensic science with Senate Bill 1890, the Carla Walker Act. This bill authorizes $10 million annually from fiscal years 2027 through 2031 to help state and local labs use advanced forensic genetic genealogical DNA analysis to solve cold cases. Crucially, it sets strict privacy rules, prohibiting the use of this genetic data for medical or psychological profiling, and limits arrests based solely on genetic associations.
That is a delicate balance of justice and privacy. Now, let us talk about our veterans. House Resolution 9237, the Take Care of America's Veterans Act, is a massive bipartisan effort. It expands disability compensation through the Major Richard Starr Act, allows surviving spouses to keep their benefits if they remarry, and tackles mental health, brain injuries, and claims processing technology.
It is a very comprehensive bill. On the creative side, we have House Resolution 9253, the Protect Working Musicians Act of 2026. This addresses the market imbalance between independent musicians and massive online distribution platforms or generative artificial intelligence developers. It creates a limited antitrust safe harbor so independent artists can collectively bargain for fair licensing terms, or even collectively refuse to license their work.
That could change the game for independent artists. Moving on to environmental and infrastructure bills, House Resolution 3922, the Cross-Boundary Wildfire Solutions Act, orders a study by the Comptroller General to find statutory and regulatory barriers to wildfire mitigation across federal, state, local, and tribal land boundaries.
And in the Senate, House Resolution 7250 has been referred to the Committee on Energy and Natural Resources. This bill extends the Fort Peck Reservation Rural Water System Act of 2000 for 2 years, moving the expiration date to 2028 to secure continued federal support for essential water infrastructure on the reservation.
Before we look at the daily record, let us note some organizational updates. House Resolution 1352 appointed several members to standing committees. Ms. Wasserman-Schultz, Mr. Pocan, and Mr. Bell are now on the Committee on Foreign Affairs. Ms. Lee of Pennsylvania joins the Committee on the Judiciary. Mr. Menefee goes to Oversight and Government Reform, Ms. Mejia to Small Business, and Ms. Goodlander to Veterans Affairs.
We also have several key nominations to track. Anthony W. Mativy and Anthony J. Powell have been nominated to be United States District Judges for the District of Kansas. Justin D. Smith is nominated for the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. Glenn Smith is nominated as Undersecretary of Agriculture for Rural Development. Brock Dahl is nominated as Legal Advisor of the Department of State, and Todd Blanche has been nominated for Attorney General.
Now, let us dive into the Congressional Daily Records from June 8th and June 9th, 2026. On June 8th, the House saw sharp partisan debates. Democrats criticized a proposed budget for Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the Border Patrol, calling it a blank check that ignores the cost of living crisis. They also condemned recent Supreme Court rulings on the Voting Rights Act and called for reforms to Medicare Advantage to stop the denial of patient care. There was also criticism of California's slow election vote counting process, which some called a national embarrassment.
The next day, June 9th, was filled with morning hour debates and tributes. Members honored Chicago transportation worker Riley O'Neill, the retirement of Bishop Wilbur Preston, Olympic gold medalist Layla Edwards, and sports communicator Bill Stevens. They also marked milestones like the 74th anniversary of the Horn in the West drama, Kosovo Liberation Day, Flag Day, and Juneteenth.
But it was not all celebratory. Members sharply criticized the Trump administration's handling of the DACA program and the treatment of veterans with PTSD. There were also calls for a constitutional amendment to protect the American flag, alongside a defense of voting rights following Supreme Court decisions, especially as the nation approaches its 250th anniversary year.
Looking ahead, listeners should watch out for the Senate's next steps on the Fort Peck water system bill and the progress of these high-profile nominations, including Todd Blanche for Attorney General.
We should also keep an eye on upcoming committee actions, including the House Appropriations meetings on the fiscal year 2027 bills for Homeland Security, Labor, Health and Human Services, and Education, as well as the Senate Banking Committee hearings on AI and the American Dream. That is all for today's Capital Catch-Up.
Thank you for listening. We will see you next time.